I want to bring in two people who have been following this case longer than almost anyone. Lauren and John Matthias are the hosts of the very popular podcast and YouTube channel, Hidden True Crime. Guys, it's good to have you back on the show. Thanks so much for doing this. I just feel like I can't even breathe, seeing those clips and knowing the details of how severely these kids were being tortured, literally tortured. And that last clip where Ruby says, smile and be happy for the camera. And this catatonic child is saying, I just don't know if I can right now. Lauren, maybe I can start with you and you could explain the progression of her YouTube presence, because it seemed like it was all organic. Cameras were always rolling and it was natural, and it clearly turned to this.
Yeah, it's fascinating to watch. What we see is this squeaky clean family, right? This wholesome family that we all want to be like, and yet it showed how it sort of evolved into, oh wow, we're making so much money now. Let's keep, bringing in more and more and more, and that they almost say they felt like they were being blessed by God with all of the money. The abundance was a blessing, that they were doing something right, and yet behind the scenes, receiving all this blessing is one thing, but behind the scenes, it's actually borderline abusive, where she's screaming, she's yelling, she's saying to fake being happy. And then it sort of shifts to sort of now people are saying, you know what, you're not the mom we thought you were, taking away Chad's bed. And then it gets to the shame and the disappointment and the anger in the comments. Ashleigh, how cruel comments can be. And Ruby Franke starts getting them. And then all of a sudden, she's like, you know what, I need something more. And then then that is where she invites someone else into her life.
And that's Jody, who was so twisted in her philosophies about family and love and raising children. I mean, she ultimately coached Ruby into being this abuser, which is interesting, though, John, because if you ask the kids, at least Cherry, she says, oh, well, hold on a second. Ruby was abusive before the YouTube channel. What do you make of that?
I agree. I think you see those moments in the documentary. The documentary does a great job of looking behind the curtain and showing you those behaviors that she was engaging in before she met Jody. There's this moment in the documentary that just, even I was, gasping for breath because it was so extreme. She grabs one of her children's mouths, and she's grabbing the mouth and she's holding it shut and she's squeezing. And it's such an aggressive moment. It's completely unnecessary because her child's not behaving in that moment, right? And so I think that's one of those moments that really foreshadows everything to come.
Lauren, I did not know that these 1,000 hours of footage existed in a box, and that the director had those hours, and obviously Hulu has spent 1,000 hours at least going over them. And I think what might be, apart from just the awfulness that we're now able to witness, the fascinating part was that some of these kids said that they thought it would be better to perform and be on the YouTube channel because Ruby was nicer when the cameras rolled. So let's get those cameras rolling to avoid the monster that we live with in the dark.
Yeah, can you imagine that? Wanting to constantly perform, it's so cruel. It's like being a circus animal, which we now realize is such a cruel thing. And to say you have to perform and, if I do this, it will be better and she will be kinder to me and things will happen. And, you mentioned that youngest daughter who's now speaking out, that youngest victim. And she said as much. She said, I don't even know how to act normally now because I feel like I have to perform to get attention. And that is what was going on in this Ruby Franke house this entire time was, I am going to be cruel and I am going to be cruel to you unless you can perform and smile for our YouTube channel.
John, the revelations were kind of jarring, to say the least, when I heard that here she is, trying to portray the perfect Mormon family, but then in these outtakes, she's going into freakish trances, and she's declaring that her children are demons. And then we learn she's a prepper, prepping for the apocalypse. And all of my thoughts went to Lori Vallow, because that is carbon copy, crazy philosophy.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.